Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you again for joining us today. I'd like to introduce my panel. First one on our panel is Dr. Dionne Hernández-Lugo. Would you please step up? She's with NASA Glenn Research Center. And thank you. And my next panelist is Bobby Kaleal. He is with Bodies Done Right and Health 360. And last is Fred DiSanto, who is also my brother, so be kind. He is with Ancora. You can hold that when you want. Okay, again, I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for taking the time to share this event with us today. As you know, my name is Karen Johnson and I'm with W.F. Hann & Sons, and I'm very honored and excited to bring to you this amazing panel. They will share with you their own success stories, their journey that they took, challenges they faced, how they overcame them, and what they do today to stay ahead of the game. So my first question, what's going to happen is I prepared some questions that I will ask, but I want to encourage all of you at any time to raise your hand if you have a question. So I will start. As you are aware, keeping up in any career, letting alone reaching the top, can be a challenge to each and every one of us. Nearly every industry is changing faster than ever today. A good example for my company is at W.F. Hann & Sons is the Wi-Fi thermostats. Technology has taken off. So that tells us that we have to train our technicians and show them how they work. I mean, how awesome that the homeowner gets notified when their system is down. So every day, my team and I have to think of training and skills to offer them to keep up their skill sets. So training our techs is key. Sharpening their skills is key. So this will lead to my first question. And to the panel, this goes out to you. What do we mean by sharpening our skills? And what is the difference between talent or a skill? Bobby, I'll open that up to you.
Thanks. Hey, I appreciate meeting everyone.
You only have 2 minutes, Bob, because you like to talk a lot.
You know, I think from my perspective, in respect to sharpening your skills, I go by, 3 little words, and it's really recognizing, educating, and then consistency. And, for me, when I work with companies and so on, and individuals, the biggest thing is recognizing, where things are going, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, where the industry is going, and where things are kind of slowing down in the industry. And then it's educating yourself. It's taking the time, finding the team, getting people in place that are going to help educate you to accept what you don't want to hear sometimes with the changing of things, but also to, start to look and get, gain some energy, motivation, and support into what's there. And then it's implementing the plan consistently. And that is, sometimes not the easiest thing to do. And in my world, it's usually with, exercise, stress, and nutrition and performance. But in that same respect, in this world of all you guys, it's really consistently trying to work at something that is, again, as technology goes, is not just going to happen overnight. And so you have to take the time and have the effort and the mindset to, work through some of the ebb and flows that you're going to get.
So Bobby, give the audience a little story on you.
My background, guys, I've been doing this for a long time in the health, wellness, and performance industry. And, I work with, I'm blessed, and cursed at the same time. I think I'm blessed to work with some very sick people all the way up to some of the highest level athletes. And so for me, it's helping them do everything I just said, and that's recognize, educate, and work on a plan. Some of the highs are, I do train the UFC heavyweight champ of the world, Stipe Miocic. And so, thank you. But, so thank you.
Dionne, I'll open that question to you. And give a little background.
All right. Okay, I'll start there. That's an easy one. All right. talk about you. I'm born and raised in Puerto Rico. I came here to Cleveland in 2013. I have a bachelor's degree in industrial chemistry and a PhD in physical chemistry, both of them at the University of Puerto Rico. I was introduced to Cleveland as part of my PhD work. NASA funded my PhD together with the National Science Foundation. So that brought me here to Cleveland every summer to Glenn Research Center as an intern. NASA Glenn Research Center, one of their areas is power, and my PhD work was in, this is all the science I'm going to say, I promise, nanostructure materials for rechargeable batteries. So that allowed me to come to NASA, have a mentor, and be able to work with them. I finished my PhD in 2013, then I was offered an opportunity to come here and work at NASA Glenn. So it has been very, very good being here. I fell in love with the city. As an intern, I came here every summer, so of course I fell in love with the summer. Of course. If you had the question of how does she feel coming from white beaches and, yes. No, I really enjoy being here. I really fell in love with the city, even though the cold, it's about a couple of months, and this one has been very good. But I really like everything that we're able to do here. I think the city is very rich in different opportunities, job opportunities, and companies, together with small companies as well as big companies and government. So I'm really glad to be here. But going back to the question about skills, that's what I picked up. But so in the current job that I am right now as a project manager for, it's been 50 years since NASA had a fission reactor developed to go into space. The last fission reactor was SNAP 10A. And that was in the 50s or so. So I'm managing a group of diverse engineers in doing that. As you heard from my degree, I am not an engineer, nor am I a nuclear person. But my background in chemistry has really helped me to understand the work that they're trying to do. Like one of my colleagues yesterday, we were talking about this, and he's like, well, there's atoms and electrons everywhere, so I think you're able to understand this. But the way that I've been able to be where I am and be able to, speak the language is, just picking up a book every night. Nuclear Engineering for Dummies is right next to my nightstand. So that and that's what I tell people. When they ask me, what do you want to do, and do you want to move on? What kinds of things you would like to do? I always tell them that, if I'm not picking up a book at night and learning something new, then I need to go find and do something else. So that's what encourages me to doing this, and just to give some time to my colleague right here. I'll just have to say education for me is one of the biggest things.
That's great. It's great to see brain gain in Northeast Ohio with the doctor here. And we met. We spent a little bit of time. I'll give you my background. I'm one of seven, 6 sisters and me. I was right in the middle, so I was not spoiled. I was in an Italian and Irish family, and grew up in South Euclid. Went to school at Ignatius, then went to Case, and then started my career and got my master's at Case. We were talking about the difference between talent and skill. Talent is something that God gives you. Skill is what you do with that talent. How do you improve your talent? I think we've all known people that are extremely bright and they kind of just wallow. I think we all know people that have been great athletes, or they have the potential to be great athletes, they just don't work at it. And someone that works harder and develops that skill succeeds. And I think that's the real difference when you take a look at, I can tell you, our firm, I'm at Ancora, we've got 83 people, 35 shareholders. I'm a big believer that people that add value deserve a piece of the company. And there are probably 82 people there that are smarter than me. And I'm not making that as a joke. We have extremely bright people. But what do you do to improve yourself every day? And doctor picks up a book, learns something, does something. From my perspective, I find myself surrounding myself with great people. There's been a couple of real instances in my life that have made a huge difference. One of the biggest things in my life that's made a difference is my partner, Carl Grassi. Carl and I happen to own WF Hann, and there is no nepotism there. My sister started, and she'll tell you, she started down, and she's elevated herself up to president, and she's doing one hell of a job. She's doing one hell of a job in not only representing WF Hann, but representing both Carl and I. But Carl is one of those individuals that is extremely bright, extremely driven. I'm the internal optimist. His cup is always half empty. We make great partners. So part of life is finding that person or finding that mentor, if you will, that can pick you up when you're down. That can say, hey, you know what, you're looking at it the wrong way, man. That's not the way to look at it. And we talk about technology, we talk about hard work. There's not a harder worker than either of these two people at the table, I can tell you right now. Bobby's 24/7. He's doing technology, he's doing a business, he works people out at 6 a.m. The guy is 24/7. But at the end of the day, you got to have balance in your life, because you will burn. You will burn out. And I have a struggle with that. You can ask my wife. Look at Carl, he's on his phone still. So, that's me. It's like my pacifier. It's like my bottle. I got to have a little sip of it all the time. But I would tell you, if you're looking at yourself, the one thing that I do every year, and I've done it for, I think, ever since I really started my career, is I write down in December my personal goals that I want to achieve during the year. And personal goals might be, do I want to be a better father? Do I want to have a closer relationship with God? Do I want to be a better husband? Do I want to be a better brother, better friend? And then I also put down my business goals. What do I want to achieve in 2020? We've started this exercise. I sent an email out. Tom Kennedy from Ancora is here today. I sent an email out in December, and I think Tom will attest this. I said, it's this time of year, it's great to reflect on what happened in your life. And maybe some of the challenges and some of the goals and objectives you put down. Put the new goals and objectives down. And don't put 50 down, because you're not going to do 50. Put 2 or 3. Put 2 or 3, because it's good feeling that you're getting something accomplished in your life. So that's really where I come from as it relates to talent and skill. I am extremely competitive, and I think that makes up for a lot of lack of talent and a lack of skill. But I do think that you need help along the way. You got to have people that care about you. You got to be in an environment that people care about you. You got to better celebrate successes. And I think those are the really things that I believe that has helped me achieve some success. I believe I have a long way to go, but you wake up every morning and can't wait to get where you're going. So that's me.
Okay. Now that you answered about 5 of my questions.
By the way, Karen is older than me, just by about 18 months.
Age isn't everything. Okay. I am going to put this question out to you, Bobby, and Dionne, both of you. I would like to ask you, reflecting on your career, give 1 or 2 practices that you have stayed committed to.
You could call me Dionne.
Diane.
2 practices that I've stayed committed to. I think, it was hit on before, but mentoring. So in every phase of my career, I don't stay with the same mentors. I try to find mentors who are either in a position that I'm striving to, or someone that's high within the organization that can help me understand what are the skills, right, or the different things that I need in order to get to a specific area. You know, I've grown a lot by speaking to people who are not in my area. I love talking to the admins and learning from them and learning about the job that they do. I talk to anyone, not only on the science area, just to be able to understand where they came from, the things that they did, and it helps me kind of see the way that they're growing within the organization, but from a different perspective. So mentoring is number one, and the other one is feedback. So a lot of people don't like this, but every year, of course, our bosses want to, I don't know if they do this in all of the your work areas, because I don't know where everybody's here from, but for us in the federal government, we have to go through the yearly of everything that you did, and you have to kind of write it down. Now, at the beginning, it was very difficult for me, because I was like, well, I did this, and it was very mechanical. Oh, I wrote this paper, or I went to this conference, but the boss was able to help me better understand, you know, what did you accomplish, and how did you help the organization, and how did you help the agency or the center? You know, why the thing that you did that you took 40 hours out of your month or whatever to do, why was that important? So, you know, learning about that feedback and knowing how much your contribution to either your work area, or in our case, the agency, has been two things that have helped me not only better understand what I'm doing and that what I'm doing is important, but also learning about the things that I need to do to get better. So,
Thank you.
For myself, it's, you know, the biggest thing for me is I consistently try to educate myself in the areas, not just in the books that I read, and it's not that in the body, it's more for educating myself on situations that are going to be in front of me, such as, you know, if I have to go work with a company, it's understanding the workforce that is in front of me. It's some of the negative traits that are going on, some of the conversations that are being had inside, to what the goal of the organization is overall, you know. And so I educate myself on how to help an individual or the groups or the team reach their peak potential. And because the biggest thing that I realize with a lot is most individuals, you know, they don't know what to do, when to do, or how to do it. When it comes to making the change, they can't fit it into their lifestyle. They're not sure. They're stressed at home. They're stressed at work. And so my job is to continually try to educate myself based on all the situations I put myself in front of, so that I can feel, so that I can be empathetic to the situation and sympathetic at the same time. But in that same breath, realize that I have to help make change, whether they like it or not sometimes. And so, you know, by myself educating myself and putting myself into situations, in real life situations, it's allowed me to help to grow, to be able to sit up here and talk with individuals, because I'm able to work with the leaders of the companies. I'm able to work with the people in the machine shops, and so and at the same time I deal with those people who are sick. And so by doing this and consistently, again, that word, trying to put myself into their shoes and then educating myself about how to make it happen, it's what has allowed me to help to grow, not only in what I do, because I see the success that comes from it. When people just, you know, take the time to buy in, to realize they may not like what is happening, but to know that overall, you know, hopefully they come out on top, and so does the team.
Thank you. Fred, I'll pose this next question to you. What do you project are the most important skills for the workplace in 2020? Will this decade be any different from the past?
Well, that's a great question, Karen. I think there are certain things that'll never change that a worker or an employee is going to have to do. I think there's just certain basic characteristics of a great employee or a great partner, and that's, you got to have passion in what you're doing. So I don't care what technology is happening. You got to love what you do. You got to work in a team environment. You know, I've always put myself in a situation where it's all about the team. So I think those are, you know, team and having a passion about what you do, I think, are constant elements that are going to be around for a long time. With that being said, we're in a business of, we people entrust us to take care of their investments. And if there hasn't been a technology change in investments over the last 20 years, I don't know what's happened. You can do a lot more with less people. Because of technology, research is literally at your fingertip. Before, it would take 3 or 4 analysts to really, be able to research and analyze, companies. Now, one person can handle 2 or 3 pretty quickly, and Tom is evident of that. So being able to stay up with the technology and the changes of technology, and then really trying to stay in front of how technology is going to change our deliverable to our client. Because it's happening. I mean, 10 years ago, you could not go on your phone today and hit an Ancora app and see your total investment portfolio as of today. I mean, as of like right now. You can do that. So being able to stay out in front of the technology and then deliver what that technology can provide to the relationship or to our client, but in a manner where it's exactly how they want it. Because everyone isn't the same. So I would say those couple of things are really what's going to continue to change our environment and what we spend on IT and technology versus what we spent a year ago. 10 years ago, I bet we're at least tenfold in what we spend on IT.
And I'd like to add one thing to Freddie's point that it just happened to come up in a meeting I had the other day, and that is, technology is going faster and faster, and it's happening. And for businesses, one thing that you have to be proactive about is preparing for, making those changes in technology and the costs associated with all of that. And it's better to be proactive and start to think about those trends now and where you're going to go, not just now, but again, a year from now, who knows where you're going to be, let alone 2, 3, 4. You might be able to blink your eye and then check your thermostat for all you know.
And Bobby, the other thing is, and Karen, we've talked about this a lot at WF Hann, it's still relationships. Relationships aren't going out the door. I don't care what technology brings. You've got to build relationships still. Who's going to have someone from WF Hann come in and not think they're going to build a relationship with that person that's coming into their house and they're going to spend money replacing the furnace, and you think technology is going to do that? Relationships aren't going away, and I tell our people that every day. Building relationships will never, ever go away.
Dionne, would you like to add?
Just to not be left out, right? So for me, with this question, I thought about it more on the people and on the personal level. I manage a group of diverse engineers, some of the biggest brains that you can imagine, and they're very, very smart people. But one of the things that I try to work with them, and some of the things that I've tried to work, and that I would like to kind of add for this question is emotional intelligence. It's having the ability to put yourself in somebody else's shoe and understand where that person is coming from. I come from a very small island, and getting here, it may be big for some and small for others, but what I went through growing up is not the same thing that someone from here, from Ohio or New York or someplace else, right, went through. So I think, technicians, engineers, scientists, there are many out there. But what makes you unique and what makes you be that person that I, as a project manager, I'm going to go out and talk to your boss and say, I need this person to work with me. There are I think a handful of people that you feel comfortable working with, not only because they're smart, they'll get the work done, they are forthcoming and all of that, but also having the ability to, be with other people and have that emotional intelligence. So I think that to answer the question in terms of what are the skills for the workplace, that's what I would add.
Okay.
How do you develop a skill like that? I mean, how do I develop that skill? Everybody knows I have it, by the way, but I just want to say I just want to make that clear. But when in the theme of sharpening your skills, some of the things that you're talking about, how do we go about doing that, especially if maybe where we work or maybe the business that we own is not, those particular areas are not the focus, but emotional intelligence surely wouldn't be in what I do. But having said what you said, how do we do that?
Yeah, I think within NASA also we are very milestone driven, and we're giving a budget, and we have to work through getting to a milestone, whether it is a launch vehicle or the next astronaut vehicle or the next power system. Sometimes we forget, right, that a certain person may be going through a specific situation at home, and you need to just step up and go do the work that that person is doing. So for me, I think there are multiple books. I'm very big on books, but that's like the easiest answer. But I think what I would say is take the time to know your team members. Take the time to just go off and drink a little bit of coffee with that new person that just came in. And learn about them, hear them, know where they came from, and be able to understand that, if that person is not pulling their weight, the reason for doing it, and, putting yourself to make sure that you're able to help that person achieve the goal, because as a team, everyone's going to be rewarded. So making sure that you're able, it's not your responsibility to do their job 100%, but there's certain times where you just have to, take that time to step up and be able to help that person.
Then that being said, what you just said, it leads into my next question. Do you feel employers should take on the role to improve the skill sets of their employees, or should the employees have a portion of doing that on their own? Bobby?
I was hoping Fred went first with this one. Get myself in trouble. I think it's a 50-50 split. I really do. It's a common thing that comes up. I think you as an individual, you should always strive to want to get a little bit better. Again, to stay up with the times. That's really what it's all about, in my opinion. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, and I believe that you should strive to want to become better, inside and out, from every level. But at the same time, too, as an employer, when I talk to the employers, it's so important to invest in your team, and I think you do, and I think sometimes it goes to the side. Sometimes the little things that employers do that I think carries a lot of weight, from the health insurance and to wanting, just the little things that they do. I can go on. That being said, you want a better team, let's give them some tools to be able to reach their potential, and so then you take the excuse out of their hands is really what you're doing. Here's the tool. Here you go. This is an opportunity for you to grow, to get, better inside, whether it's for the company or for yourself. You're still getting a better employee overall if that's the case. But what you're doing then is you're eliminating the excuse for that individual to tell you, nah, it just isn't right for me. I don't know. So I think it's, it's a two-way street.
Yeah, it is a two-way street. I view this, Karen, more, what's the culture that you're trying to drive at your company or your organization? And we at Ancora spend a lot of, I don't want to say we spend a lot of time talking about culture. Hopefully we spend a lot of time living our culture. When we bring in a new employee, and we have had significant growth over the last 2 or 3 years. I think we've added something like 25 people, Tom, out of 80, 82, Carl 30, because you're on our advisory board. A couple things that when I end up, and I interview every person that we hire. I don't want to say I make the decision, but at least I interview so I get to know the person, and they can really understand from me what expectations are of the employer and the expectation of the employee. And I tell our people, there's certain things that are really important to me, and you live with these people. They're not just employees. You sometimes you might spend more time with them than you do your own family sometimes. So there's a couple things that we believe at Ancora that is extremely important. Family comes first. No matter what, your family comes first. So if you have a little daughter that's in a play at 10 o'clock at the middle school, If you're not there, shame on you, and you're not getting deducted time for that. Because those times are going to go away. Carl and I lived those times. We missed a lot. Did we not, Carl? We sacrificed. We missed a lot. I don't want our people to sacrifice like that. They need to do that. But at the same time, we hold them to a high level of expectations on what their job is and how are they going to perform and how are they going to work with others. So culture really drives that for us. We do a lot. I mean, I think Friday we have massages for everybody. I mean, and that thing gets filled up like that because they're like half hour, and I'll say, yeah, it sounds like a good idea, and I go there and it's full. I don't get a massage. So, but we do little things. We celebrate successes. Karen, you mentioned one thing. There's one thing I think in my career that I'm a big believer in, and that's one, celebrating the successes of your team. It's not one person. It's a team. And if you can celebrate those successes and people in the organization see those successes of what others are doing, I really think it helps build that culture as you move forward.
Thank you. Okay, everybody has their ups and downs, as you were just talking about, Fred, or even experience burnout. What motivates each of you year after year to keep your skill set sharp and for you to carry yourself through those up and downs? As Dionne said, you never know what goes on in somebody's personal life or at home. So how do you keep it going?
We need to hear from all of you. This is a conversation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, got a question here.
Okay. All right.
It's more a comment. I like to say that everything you asked of the panel, Karen does herself. And recently she hired one of our young people who came to our agency, and some of the skill sets that you were talking about with regards to educating yourself, doing some self-studies, and then having the personality to provide a customer service when you go out in the field. So I just want to say that by coming to this luncheon a little over a year ago and meeting you and going on a tour, that's one of the reasons why I think I focused on making sure that some of the participants we deal with would come to an organization like you, because you are living those very things you're asking these people up here. And and you're a great leader. And as I told you
Thank
before, I appreciate you interviewing our young people and giving them the opportunity. So hopefully that person's going to be successful at your location.
Thank you
The
very much.
training and everything.
That's great.
Thank you.
That's great to hear.
But honestly, though, Fred and Carl, I learned from two of the best. I really did. Granted, family is everything to me. My family, my kids. I have that foundation, and I hope everybody has that foundation of family. You can't do anything without family, and I carry that over into WF Hann. I have some of my management team here, and we're a family. That's my second family, and that we all share that, and I think that's how we make it work. That's how we make it work. So thank you. Would anybody else like to comment?
I don't know if they can hear me, but yeah, my wife happens to work at the Cleveland Clinic, and yesterday she mentioned that they have really increased the amount of self-development at the clinic and their staff, and it goes beyond their job task. It's about developing their own skills, their own knowledge, their own experience. And I was just wondering, from a management standpoint, your first instinct is, how do I train the skills? How do I, using new electronic equipment, et cetera. But how important is it to add those, the ability to provide resources for personal development?
I would answer from our NASA side. NASA is very big in professional development. I think they force their employees to develop every year what they call an individual development plan, so they force you to kind of think about what you want to do. And they are very big on courses. Actually, yesterday night, I had a meeting with our Senate director, and she's like, you know, we have all these courses and people don't want to take them, and I understand they're busy. Sometimes they just can't, right? So I think that it is, depending on, again, I don't want anybody to be like, the NASA lady said that you need to have classes in your workplace. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that depending on the area that you're at and the company that you are at, you know, if new trends come out, that's an opportunity for an employer to bring in those new trends and be able to train and help their employees to develop the skills, whatever skills that are needed. You know, if it's not based on new trends, then, you know, I pass the ball to the employee. If there's a specific job or an area that you're interested in being at, like I said before, find a mentor in that area, go talk to them, ask them how they got there, and tell them what kinds of things they did. You know, nowadays you have YouTube. YouTube trains everyone. So you could just go into YouTube and kind of read and look for and research, right? Anything that you want to do. LinkedIn also is very big on, you know, free courses in different areas. I use it a lot for project management. So I think having all of these things, not only, you know, for employees waiting for the employer to do it, but also I would like to take the opportunity to just put it in the employee's hand to, you know, think about where do you want to be. This is something they tell us all the time. Put a plan together of where you want to be in the next 5 years. And then develop that plan, work with someone that's either in something similar to what you want, and, you know, make sure that they give you feedback on the steps to take. And when the opportunities come around, just not be afraid and just go and do it. What I've learned within the agency, we don't come in as project managers, right? And some of us don't have the training to be project managers. Some of them kind of are learning in the job, and that's very big nowadays, right? So employers giving the employees the opportunity to be able to learn specific skills within the job, and, you know, not pinning them for doing something wrong, but rather encouraging them for the things that they are learning and the good things that they're bringing to the company. So that's me.
I think that those are great comments. The one thing that we encourage our people to do, we're a very entrepreneurial firm, and we want people to take risks. So if someone has an idea, go run with it. You know, Tom Kennedy, we do some things on what called special purpose vehicles, and Tom says, you know what, I really want to be the conduit from our alternatives group to the rest of the portfolio managers. No one asked, go do it. So we encourage them to just ask, if you want to do something, go do it. Just do it, you know, and I think it empowers them. The one thing I do want to comment, Karen, you said, you know, throughout your career, you have ups and downs, and you may have periods where you feel burnout. And you say, what motivates you personally? I mean, my personal motivation is I have a terrible fear of failure. And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. And I think the fear of failure sometimes will carry me through if I'm just having a bad month or bad 6 weeks or a bad day. So that's something personally that I'm, and you fail every day. You have failures every day in your life. I know I do. And you kind of just keep plowing ahead and saying, you know, let's move forward.
You know,
That was going to be my question to the panel. Is what is your biggest fear? Because when we talk about the skill sets and talk about empowering yourself, but what are your fears? And I think you touched
Well, I'll tell you one story about Carl and I. And we took over WF Hann, and it was a very precarious way we got. Believe me, I know if you ask me to come fix your toilet or your HVAC, run, because I have no idea on how to do any of that. We happened to be in a situation that we ended up taking control of the business, and something happened in the business, and Carl was out of town, and I called him and I said, we got real problems. And Carl said, what do you think we're going to do? I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to figure it out, man. We got no other choice than figure it out. And that's when we elevated Karen to brought Karen in for more responsibility. and we just fought. We fought, and it took a long, long time. I can tell you today, W.F. Hann has never been in a better position as a company on leadership, financially, and the reputation we have in Northeast Ohio. But it wasn't like that 8 years ago. And Carl tells a story. I was leaning on the fence like this with his phone, and we just figured it out. So that, I think if you're afraid to fail, and you had so many lives that depended on W.F. Hann. There were 60 employees at the time, Carl, that if the company went under, what were they going to do? And they entrusted us. They entrusted Carl and I. So I think that failure, that fear of failure helps drive a lot on how we do things.
And I'll second that. And, for me, the fear of failure was a reality. In a short little story, in 2010, I lost everything from the economy in 2009 up. And I had to shut my gym down that I built over, I was blessed to start my own business and build it up as far as I did. I got a 20,000 square foot facility, and, before you knew it, 1 year later after I had my dream come true, the economy went down. We lost all of our school contracts. We lost our corporate contracts. People weren't, wellness wasn't the first thing they were looking at back then, But I realized something. I was blessed with a gift to be able to work with people, and I had to watch people that were losing their jobs and losing their livelihood, and it was the most heartbreaking thing I've ever felt. But for me, it was motivation. It was the failure that I was having that was allowing me to continue to get up every day and to come into work and to say my prayers and to realize that, if I'm still able to breathe, if I'm still able to do this, if I can help these people still, it doesn't really matter what I'm doing here. They're going through so much more. I had my degrees to fall back on. I was young. I had people around me. Again, the support cast is everything. All right? And I said, to myself, if it is what it is, I'm going to have to start over and I'm going to do this. And for me, it gave me the drive to work with individuals so much more. And I don't think I would be the presenter today if I didn't go through it. And so that fear of failure happened, and I think you have to look it in the eyes. You have to trust. You have to have faith. Please, you have to have faith. And you have to trust and know that if I'm going to have to cross this road, if I'm going to have to go through this water right now with these alligators and all this stuff, that you'll come out all right. And it's a faithful thing, but it's a reality.
Thank you. Well, we are, Steve, how much more time?
Oh, I got one other thing I got to say. I forgot to tell everybody. That's my Uncle George DiSanto, so we're related. So.
And your nephew, Derek.
And my nephew, no, my cousin, not my nephew.
Cousin.
Karen. Hi, it's Renee.
Hey.
I have a quick question, comment. Fred brought up when you guys were talking about skills versus talent. So what I would like, and I agree with you, by the way, talent is something you're born with, is something that God gives you, it's something your parents, whatever you believe in, it's something that is part of who you are. Skills is something you do with that talent. What I'd love to hear from the four of you, what do you think is your God-given talent, and how have you used that?
Sorry, I didn't mean to stop.
We'll let the brains go first.
No.
Because that's not mine.
If this was a math question, I would be jumping at it, be like 22. No. I thought about this when I saw the list of questions, because I think that question's in there, in that list. I'm just going to tell you something that my supervisor kind of told me that I just didn't realize. He said, you have the ability to read people and read situations and act on them. Although he may not agree with them at the beginning, he's like, you're 90% of the time you're correct. So, I mean, that's something that I just saw things and I just acted on them. But to be able to see, how he recognized it as such, right? So from there, what I've learned to be the skill that I've had to learn is to be able to work with people, because sometimes there are situations where I have to manage up. So I have to either tell someone at headquarters that they're doing something wrong, that it should be done differently. So then you have the you know, that emotional intelligence part, right, is where it kicks in, and how do you work with them, and something that it could take me an hour, it takes me a week to get it done, but be able to be patient and resolving it as fast as possible. But I think very quickly, that's kind of what came to my mind when you asked the question.
You know, my skill, I'm blessed. I only really know how to do one thing, and that's really help, you know, people reach their potential mentally, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. That's all I know is the body and the people. And so my greatest skill is, you know, it's helping, you know, really realizing, you know, someone's innate qualities and where they are, and helping them try to get away from their fears or attack them, if anything, and then, you know, more so try to reach higher levels.
I would say my talent is probably, I was just born with a very competitive spirit. And I think sometimes that competitive spirit can get the best of you where you're not a good leader, you're not a good person. And I think that the talent and the skill set that I'm trying to do every day and learn every day is, how do I become more patient? How do I not hold people at the same level that I hold myself? Because sometimes, you know, people are just different. And I think if I can, you know, if I can do that, I can become a better leader. I'm not going to lose my competitive spirit, but if I can just handle it in a way that everybody wins, I think that's the skill set I really am trying to learn to this day.
I would ditto.
Her brother.
I would say mine is quite simple. I think it's just caring for everyone. I came from a wonderful family, very, very fortunate. You know, we had a lot of heartache throughout the years. I have wonderful children, and I think it just made me realize that, you know, it takes everyone. I mean, I might be the president of WF Hann, but gosh, I have a wonderful management team. I have awesome employees. We're a family, and I treat them like my family. I mean, I care about, you know, what some of our employees have to go home to. You don't know once they leave work what they're faced with when they leave. A lot of times work is just an out for them. And if I can make it a happy place, I've done my job, because then it'll be a domino effect. And I think that's what I bring to the table. It's just that I care, So, anybody else have any questions?
Hi, I'm Patrice Blakemore, the Executive Director of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses Program. And we have graduated over 650 small business owners. One of the things that we've seen in terms of a trend is people are stretched thin. And so how do you determine what and when you will delegate a task or responsibility?
That's a great question. I can tell you from our perspective, or from my perspective at Ancora, 3 years ago, I probably had, I don't know, Tom, 10 direct reports to me. And I said there was no way we were going to grow and succeed as a firm. So now I only have 3. So I've delegated. We elevated a person to president. We elevated a person that literally started as an admin back in 2005, is now our chief operating officer. So I just knew we couldn't grow as a company if I had to look at every little detail. So delegating and lifting people up and seeing other people in the organization, seeing those people grow into significant roles has helped our company.
You know, I think when you're stretched thin, you know, and a lot of organizations are, I think that's, you know, more of a time when you really got to pull together, and that's when you got to find out, like, educate yourself on each other and figure out what strengths each of you have, what weaknesses, what stressors are you carrying back at home that you know, unfortunately sometimes carry over into the workplace, you know, no right or wrong there. And so I think that's when you're stretched thin, is when you really got to kind of, button things up and really define and understand each other at a greater level. Because if not, then, that's when the doors close, or worse, or people got to get let go. And so I think that's when you really got to dig deep. And the team's got to be motivated to want to do that, And if there's someone on that team that's not motivated to do it, then you know what? Maybe you're stretched thin. You got to get rid of that person, because then maybe you won't be stretched so thin anymore. Maybe sometimes that's what needs to happen. And so,
The sense of making it fun. I wouldn't say get rid of them. Right? I wouldn't say that. What I would say is, I think the employer needs to know their employees and know how much they could handle, right? My boss knows that he has to give me as much work as possible, because if I get bored, I'll just go and do my job, or go do work with a different organization, because I just get bored very, very easily. So he knows that if something comes up and he needs it done by X amount of time, if he comes to me and I have the time, he knows that 90% out of it, I'll say yes. So I think it's knowing the employee, evaluating what the task is, evaluating the time for the task to be completed, and, be able to remove some things from that person's plate in the event that, someone else can pick up whatever extra job that person was doing, for them to be able to complete whatever you need them to complete, so it's done correctly. So that's what I would recommend, but don't get rid of them.
yeah.
This is kind of in response to the question you asked about what motivates you to keep your skill set sharp through ups and downs. And it's actually a great read that I'm in right now called Mind Connections. It's by Joyce Myers. I'm sure everybody has heard that. But the book talks about how your mind connection affects your mood, your decisions, and your behavior. A lot of times when life hits us, we're like, oh my God, this circumstance, how can I overcome it? Or I don't have control anymore. But really being connected with your mind and knowing that you do have control over your circumstance, and your circumstance doesn't control you. And so, your circumstance could be something negative, but you have the choice to overcome that. So deciding what mood you're in, sometimes you come in and you may not feel positive, but speaking that into existence, constantly thinking that until that shifts your atmosphere, and that bleeds into the environment that you work in. And I feel like that's something that you all kind of touched on indirectly, is that mind connection and that mindset that you have.
Any other questions?
One over there.
Earlier, Fred, you mentioned about in December, you write your goals down, dreams that you may have. This is for the panel. I know that individuals are often inspired by even other people's big dreams and goals. So for each of you, what's one big goal or project that you're working on, and it perhaps scares you, Fred, at work, but you're really excited about achieving it, and you're inspired by it, and it drives you? So what's your one big goal related to work?
We're in a business where performance is key, and one of the goals that we have as a company, we have an alternatives group, and it's a really unique group within our company, and I think very unique within Northeast Ohio and the state of Ohio, and it's the constant pressure of that group performing, and I think sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves for investment performance in that group that it could tear them apart. So it's trying to manage expectations of that group and convincing them that we're doing all the right things and performance will happen, and keeping them motivated. I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm spending my time on in 2020. And then we're also looking at going into a different vertical and making an acquisition that is going to take out a lot of my time if we do this. So those are the two things that I have for 2020.
I think very similar to what he mentioned. You know, in our project, we're trying to get this project executed, and you know, our agency is stretched very thin in terms of budget. So, you know, making sure that the project it's able to move to the next phase and be able to complete this goal of, you know, this big task that we were given to try to go back to the moon, which is very important. So I think anyone within the engineering or the science community within the agency, I think it's very main goal is to make sure that they're able to execute their project correctly, get everything done right, and be able to move to the next step. And I'm not saying this just because of the work part of it, but I do have a group of about 15 to 20 engineers. Some of them just came out of school. Yesterday, I learned about someone who's a pathway intern, so he's in school and he's also working in our project. So making sure that, like he mentioned, making sure that they're motivated and making sure that they are, you know, they want to work in our project and stay in our project, and making sure they see the importance of continuing doing the work and be able to complete that goal is the goal is not only for us being able to complete the project within the agency, but my biggest goal is to make sure that I'm able to keep this good team of engineers actually wanting to work in our project and working with us.
I have one, you know, real major goal, you know, coming up next year, and it's been something I've been working on for quite some time now. And, you know, for us, it's keeping up with technology. And so, you know, we're developing a software application. We just received our 9th patent. And, you know, it's important for me to get it out, you know, because it's going to allow me to work with companies across a wide spectrum in the areas of orthopedics, cardiac rehab, wellness, and it's a big task. It's a task that's ever changing because of all the new technologies that are coming out there. And so, you know, for me, it's in our team, it's consistently educating ourselves in what we need to do. At the same time, you know, educating ourselves on the new technologies that are out there. At the same time, it's communicating with the different physical therapists to understand how we need to build it specific for them versus the occupational therapists and the cardiac rehab people, so that our solution will work under one universal system as opposed to being 4 or 5 different systems. And so, you know, there's a lot that's going into it, and there, you know, time, energy, effort, stress, everything I preach to all my clients, you know, I deal with myself, which is why I believe you got to do what you need to do, the way I approach it. And so that's my biggest goal for 2020 is really launching that and finding the right partners and teams to help me support me in this next phase or chapter of, you know, our company.
Anyone else? I think we're about, yes,
So could you just each give
one last,
us
yeah.
one more convincing argument why it's important to sharpen our skills? So we can all be motivated with that. Why it's so important to sharpen our skills every year.
Go. Yeah, I'll do it again. Guys, it's just, guys, the bottom line is this, you know, you got to really truly believe in who you are and what you want to do. And sometimes you got to put on blinders and really be selfish for yourself to reach your potential and figure out what you need to do. And then there's times you got to take them off and respect the people around you. And so if I could just leave you with anything, it's truly just to believe in who you are and respect that it's going to be hard work. Life is not easy, as you know. You know, I'm not telling you something you don't know. And, you know, once you can grasp on and believe in something, you know, that you think is going to hit you deep in your heart, then guess what? You're going to do a lot better at it, in my opinion. Thank you for your time also.
All right. You want me to go, Doctor?
Yes.
I'm very goal driven. So if there's a skill that you think you need to work on, and you write it down, and you wake up in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror, and you say, you know what, I'm getting better at that, you're just going to feel better about yourself. You're going to be happier. You're going to be a better person. You're going to feel good about yourself. And you know, people love to talk about the company. At the end of the day, you know, you also have to feel good about yourself. So if it's a skill set that you really want to, you know, do and get better at, do it because it's going to make you feel better. You're gonna feel good about yourself. I think most people like to feel good about themselves, and if they don't, they want to figure out how they can. So if learning a skill set that you're not good at and getting better at it, you're gonna feel better about yourself. So I would tell you that's a motivating factor.
Mine's going to be very fast. I think that, like I said, part of this, if some of you are taking notes, if not, take notes. No, I'm kidding. That's the professor in me.
It's getting taped.
It's getting, right, later. What did she say? No, just like I said before, set up your plan either for this year, like he mentioned, or your plan for your 5 years. Give yourself, I encourage all of you to just give yourself 30 minutes a day to just learn something new, figure something out, research something on YouTube, do something, right? I think it's all in all of us to be able to see where you want to be and be able to work every day to achieving it. Like in the wellness industry, getting up every morning to go to the gym, it's not easy. But after a month, apparently your body asks for it, is what I've been told. And it will get easier. So, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So thank you all very much. Karen, I'm not going to close for you, but thank you very much for being here. It's been great.
I'd like to thank all of you, and I think all of us here have a lot of takeaways. I want you to go home and think about, some of the points they touched on. I think, what? It's the new decade. It's going to be better for us. It's, just keep learning and keep telling yourself, I can do it. I can do it. And as Fred said, it's okay to fail. We all fail. But it's okay. Sometimes don't be so hard on yourself. But I think they gave us a lot of motivating comments here that'll get us through the next decade. And you know what? Pass it along to your employees. Pass it along to your employees. So thank you very much, all of you.